Hello everyone. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how Sceptre can handle a couple of CloudFormation template formats. So by default CloudFormation supports the template in the YAML format and the JSON format. Like in the previous tutorial I showed you how to deploy a CloudFormation template that was written in YAML. This time I'm going to deploy a JSON version of the same template. So this is the template from the previous tutorial. It was written in YAML, and I have converted that template in the JSON format in this file called ec2-vpc.json. It has exactly the same parameters, same VPC using the values from those parameters. It will use the value from those parameters to define the name tag and also the side block. And then in order to deploy this, I have written another config which is in this file called ec2vpc-json YAML, which points to that template file in the JSON format, specifying the name as my VPC from JSON and the CIDR block as 10.255.240 instead of 248.0/21. So let's try to deploy this. But first, let's double check the status of the stack in AWS. Yeah, no stack is currently deployed. No VPC. Okay, let's go back to Visual Studio Code. This time I'm going to deploy that JSON config using the command sceptre launch. Immediately go straight to sceptre launch instead of using sceptre create, because we just want to have it deployed. Sceptre launch -y and then point to this file ec2vpc-json.yaml. Yeah, it is creating. Let's go back to the AWS console, refresh. It is creating. Let's have a look at the template. Yeah, that's the JSON template. I need to remove this later on, but it should be fine. Stack info events, it is created now. Let's check the VPC, refresh this. Yeah, it is created using that name that we specified in the parameters. My VPC from JSON and VPC started blocks would be 10.255.240.0/21. Yeah, it's 10.255.240.0/21. So that's how you can deploy a CloudFormation template that was written in JSON using Sceptre. Now let's have a look at another template that is supported, another format that is supported by Sceptre, which is the Python, the template written in Python. In order to have a template written in Python deployed by Sceptre, it needs to meet a couple of requirements. First, it needs to use Troposphere, which means you need to install Troposphere. So let's do that while we are at it. The command is pip install Troposphere. Now it is installed. Let me update the selected Python runtime. So this warning is gone. Yeah, it's gone. So these will produce exactly the same template, but it doesn't use parameters to pass the variables. It uses Sceptre user data as required by Sceptre. And then, other than the troposphere requirement, we also need to define a function called Sceptre handler. And then this is where we pass the variables from the config to this Python script. Now, in order to pass the variables to this config, we need to access it through this main variable called Sceptre user data. And I have written a config to use this Python file, which is in this config ec2vpc-py.yaml. It points to this Python file, and then instead of using parameters, I define the variables under Sceptre user data. So the whole variable, the whole Sceptre user data block will be passed to the Python script like that. And then in order to access the sub variables under Sceptre user data, we need to access it using the dictionary method by specifying the name of the variable like an index like this. So this is how you access the CIDR block, and this is how you access the VPC name. You will build the CloudFormation template with the CIDR block using the value provided by Sceptre from Sceptre user data, and also the name using the value provided through the Sceptre user data. So in this case, the name will be my VPC from Troposphere. The CIDR block should be 10.255.232.0/21. Let's deploy this. Sceptre launch -y ec2vpc-py YAML, and then let's monitor the progress in AWS console. Go CloudFormation stack, refresh this. We have another stack being deployed. Create in progress. Yeah, create complete. Let's go to VPC, refresh this. We have my VPC from Troposphere. That's the one that just got deployed, and the CIDR block is 10.255.232.0/21. So let's go back to the stack information, have a look at the template. Now, as you can see, it is written nicely in the template, although the sequence is not standard. The type is down below, but that's fine. It is still acceptable. You don't see parameters here because we didn't define the parameters, but everything looks like it's been hard-coded. But if we look back at the code, we know that it was dynamically generated, dynamically passed from the config to the template using Sceptre user data. So there's no parameters required, but although if you want to pass the variables through via parameters, you can do so. Yeah. And then let's have a look at the last format accepted by Sceptre, which is the Jinja2 format. This is almost the same as the original YAML template, but I have modified the passing of the variables. So instead of using parameters, Jinja2 also expect that the variables are passed via Sceptre user data. So this is how you access the Sceptre user data in Jinja2 by accessing the index name like that, or you can also use access it like dictionary, like this. This is also acceptable, but for this demonstration, I'll use this format. And then in order to pass the variable to Sceptre user data, I have written another config in this file, ec2vpc-j2.yml. So it's very similar with the Python version. We pass the variables through Sceptre user data. And this will produce a VPC with the name myVPC from Jinja2 with CIDR block 10.255.224.0/21. Let's deploy this. Sceptre launch -y ec2vpc-j2.yml. Yeah, it is creating. Let's monitor the status in AWS console. Refresh this. That's the J2 version. Yeah, create complete. Let's inspect the template. Now it looks very similar to the output of the Python, where the values are hard-coded or are embedded into the resources instead of passing via variables, because yeah, they were rendered on the fly by Sceptre. And then let's have a look. Let's refresh the VPC. We now have the third VPC called myVPC from Jinja2. with the CIDR block 10.255.224.0/21. Yeah, and let's go back to Visual Studio Code. I want you to pay attention on the change to template because this is special format, and you can use this format, this change to syntax, not only on a template, but also in the config. And I'll show it later. Thank you for watching.